My mother-in-law literally locked me in the bathroom when I went into labor at my sister-in-law's wedding because she didn't want me to steal the spotlight. A few hours later, I woke up in the hospital. My husband Rick, 32 years old, and I recently had our first baby girl, May. We are over the moon, but wow, new parent life is basically hard mode. No sleep, no help, and a mountain of diaper laundry. Still, we're trying our best. The reason we don't have much help is because of what happened the day May was born. Honestly, it was one of the most traumatizing moments of my life, and I don't think I'll ever fully get over it. Even the joy of having May can't erase the paralyzing fear I felt that day. I'm 100% convinced that if Rick hadn't gotten to me when he did, I wouldn't be here typing this. Rick has two younger sisters, Anna, 28 years, and Emma, 24 years. I've always had a good relationship with both of them. We're not super close since everyone's busy with careers and life, and Emma lives in another city, but we text, call, and check in from time to time. And then there's Rachel, my 53-year-old mother-in-law. If Anna and Emma are chill and supportive, Rachel is the final boss of family drama, controlling, explosive, and always needing things her way. Her kids have pretty much learned to yes mom their way through life just to avoid the chaos. Their dad bailed when they were little, so they've always felt like they had to make things easier for her. But the second anyone dares to want something different, she'll go from passive-aggressive size to full-on Broadway meltdown. I keep my distance as much as I can, and Rick totally understands. He knows his mom is a lot. I don't interfere in their relationship, and she doesn't mess too much with mine. That unspoken truce kept things tolerable until recently. Because what happened on Anna's wedding day? I don't think I'll ever forgive her for that. Anna's wedding was beautiful. She married John, one of Rick's close friends, who proposed about a year earlier. She even asked me to be her bridesmaid, and I said yes. But once I found out I was pregnant, I had to back out. I was about 3 months along, and I knew I wouldn't be able to handle it. I was so nervous about telling her, I thought she'd be upset or that it would ruin our relationship. But to my surprise, Anna was thrilled. She hugged me, congratulated me, and said, "The only thing that matters is that you and the baby are okay." She even considered moving her wedding date so I wouldn't miss it if Mallory arrived early. Of course, she didn't end up doing that, thank goodness. Weddings are stressful enough. But Emma stepped in as her maid of honor, and everything worked out. I still feel a little guilty because my pregnancy was really rough and I couldn't support Anna the way she supported me. Both sisters kept in touch, checked on me, and helped when they could. Meanwhile, I was just trying not to explode from morning sickness and stress. Fast forward to Anna's wedding day, everything looked like a Pinterest board come to life. Flowers everywhere, happy tears, fancy outfits, the whole deal. I was huge by then, about 37 weeks along, and I had already warned everyone, listen, if Baby May decides today is the day, I might have to Irish exit this party. Everyone nodded and laughed, and it seemed fine. But apparently my mother-in-law Rachel decided that my possible labor was a threat to her daughter's big day. So when contractions hit, right there at the reception, I excused myself and headed toward the restroom to catch my breath and call Rick, but Rachel followed me. Next thing I know, she literally locks the bathroom door from the outside. Like, who even thinks of that? I was pounding on the door, panicking, realizing the contractions were getting stronger and closer together. I begged her to let me out, but she just hissed something about how I wasn't going to upstage Anna. I don't remember much after that because the pain hit hard. The next memory I have is waking up in a hospital bed with Rick holding my hand. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. Later, Rick told me what happened. He went looking for me when I didn't come back. He found the bathroom door jammed, forced it open like some kind of action movie hero, and rushed me to the hospital. If he had been even a little later, things could have gone terribly wrong. Baby May was born not long after, healthy but tiny, and I was completely shaken. Anna and Emma were horrified when they found out what their mom did. They both apologized over and over, but honestly, I don't blame them. I blame Rachel, because who does that? Who locks a pregnant woman in labor in a bathroom just to keep the attention on someone else? The only person who seemed genuinely upset by the whole situation was my mother-in-law. I figured she was annoyed that I couldn't be a bridesmaid anymore and that it caused some headaches with the wedding prep. That made sense and I could have understood that. But her hostile vibe toward me didn't stop even after Anna calmly reacted to my stepping down, and I wasn't mad at all. Yet Rachel somehow started treating me with open dislike from that moment on. It felt weird, but I blamed my hormones at first and told myself she was just stressed about the wedding. I tried to ignore it and mostly managed until everything exploded, both literally and figuratively, on the wedding day itself. This was 2 weeks ago, and I was basically ready to pop. My ankles were so swollen I could have mailed them as pillows. My belly was massive, and I felt like I might faint any second, but Anna wanted me there, so I went. I'd already told her I was worried my presence at that late stage might pull attention away from her day, and I didn't want to be the person who ruined it. When I brought it up, Anna got genuinely upset. Not at me, but that I even thought that. She said she didn't care about attention or looks. She just wanted family there. She told me flat out that I had to come. She was sincere, and she wasn't the kind of person to mince words. So, despite feeling awful, I went because it felt like my duty to be there for her. A lot of guests were whispering behind my back, but I ignored it because Anna was happy to see me and that's what mattered. Rachel hardly spoke to me all night and watched me with a kind of stare that belongs in a low-budget thriller. I didn't have the energy to engage with her passive aggression, so I let it go. Let her stare. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of reacting. Then the worst thing happened. I started feeling really unwell right before the ceremony. I'd already seen Anna, so I slipped upstairs hoping some fresh air would help before coming back. I didn't even notice Rachel following me. Suddenly I got hot and weird, so I went into the restroom and my water broke. It was a flood. I panicked because my daughter chose possibly the worst timing ever. I was doubled over in pain when Rachel hurried over. I begged her to take my phone and call Rick immediately. We needed to get to the hospital, like yesterday. She helped me sit down on the toilet and I handed her my phone. And then she flipped. She said she would only call Rick 1 hour after the ceremony because she didn't want me to steal Anna's spotlight. I asked her if she'd completely and told her I wouldn't survive an hour. I tried to snatch the phone back, but she locked the bathroom door and marched off with my phone. So there I was, pregnant, in full-blown labor, stuck on a toilet with no phone and no husband. I don't know how I didn't have a panic attack right then. Honestly, thank goodness I didn't. I can't even imagine what would have happened. I somehow hauled myself to the door and pounded on it with everything I had. I screamed and screamed, but the restrooms were on the second floor and the ceremony was downstairs, so nobody heard. I screamed until my voice gave out and still nobody came. In that moment, I genuinely thought I was going to go to the big permanent nap and take my baby with me. I was exhausted, drenched from the flood, sweating like a soggy noodle, and couldn't even speak. That's the last thing I remember. I blacked out from exhaustion. I don't remember how I got to the hospital, just that somehow I was there. I woke up a few hours later in a hospital bed with Rick sobbing beside me. It took me a few moments to orient myself, and when I saw him crying, I feared the worst. The memory of Rachel locking me in the bathroom and my own screams flashed through my head, and I immediately thought Mallory hadn't made it. When Rick realized I was awake, he burst into relieved sobs and hugged me like the world had ended. For a second, I was so cold inside I didn't know how to feel. Then a nurse came in, carrying a tiny girl, and I breathed out so hard I think the room heard it. To be honest, I wanted to smack Rick a little for scaring me like that, but he swore he hadn't meant for me to wake up terrified. He was terrified himself. When he found me unconscious in the bathroom, he nearly lost it. He rushed me out and later told me everything. I held our daughter for the first time, and that feeling is impossible to describe. It might be the best thing I've ever felt. Rick didn't give me the blow-by-blow at the hospital, and I'm grateful he didn't. I didn't have the strength. I only heard a rustle at the door and asked what was going on. He said Rachel was outside wanting to see her granddaughter. I told him every single thing that happened, how she endangered our baby for attention, how she locked me in there, and I said I would never, ever let her near our child. Never. For me, she doesn't exist anymore. Rick said he already knew. When he found me, she couldn't handle it and confessed everything. I told Rick that just because his mom confessed doesn't mean I'm ever going to forgive her. He actually laughed, not at me, but kind of bitterly, and said that as far as he's concerned, his mom is dead to him now. He's planning to file a police report for endangering both my life and our daughter's. He said he's going to let the law handle it and make sure she faces consequences. When he said that, it felt like a giant weight rolled off my shoulders. I know he loves his mom. They all do. But after what she did, risking both me and Mallory, forgiveness was not an option for me. If Rick had chosen her over us, that would have been the end of our marriage. No going back. Honestly, I half expected him to side with her because despite everything, she did raise them on her own. I didn't expect him to stand up for me this hard, but I'm not complaining. If anything, I love him even more now. I asked how the wedding went, and he said it was fine. Emma and Anna were already waiting for his call to visit us. I asked if Anna was mad, and he laughed, saying I had nothing to worry about. When Anna came to the hospital, she was glowing with happiness, saying her whole family had been there on her wedding day and that Mallory's birth was the best gift she could have asked for. That made me cry, and I begged Rick to call them right away. Within minutes, Anna, Emma, and John were in my hospital room. Anna and John still in their wedding outfits. Anna insisted on taking a wedding photo with her new little niece. I ugly cried on the spot. Afterward, I apologized for ruining her wedding. Anna hugged me and said I had it all wrong. I made her day special. I told her everything about Rachel's behavior, going back to when we first announced the pregnancy. Anna said, my only mistake was not telling them sooner, because maybe they could have shut down the nonsense earlier. I admitted I didn't want to cause problems, but Emma cut in and said no problem mattered more than me being safe. I teared up all over again, because that's when I realized they love me like real family, not just their brother's wife. Meanwhile, Rachel was still outside the hospital room. Anna told her straight up at the door that she'd personally make sure Rick and I took her to court. Rachel wanted to see Mallory, but I refused to let her near us. Anna said we had to keep our distance for our own safety. She apologized, saying maybe she should have spoken up sooner about their mom's controlling streak, or made it clearer that my pregnancy was never an issue for her. She thought maybe the whole disaster could have been avoided. I told her she'd always made me feel safe, and none of this was her fault. Rick was still talking with his mom outside. Later, after Mallory and I were discharged a few days later, he told me everything. He told her straight up, he's pressing charges and she can take the express train to Nopeville because the decision is final. He also told her she'll never be part of Mallory's life. She's not a grandma in any sense anymore. She chose to risk our lives over a completely imaginary slight. Rick also said he's cutting back the money he'd been giving her. She lived partly off him and Emma. That's when she cried, saying she worked her whole life for her kids and didn't deserve this. Rick told her he appreciated what she did for them, but that didn't give her the right to control their lives. He said he'd looked away and made excuses for her behavior for years, but this was the final straw. Once it came down to me and Mallory, she crossed a line and showed she's dangerous. Rachel tried to justify it, saying that as a mother, she understood Anna wouldn't have wanted me to ruin her day. When Anna heard that, she absolutely roasted her into ashes. So yeah, we're pressing charges. Rick is handling everything because I've got a newborn to take care of and zero energy for this drama. None of her kids want contact now. Anna cut her off completely. Emma only talks to her if absolutely necessary, and Rick and I are full no contact. I don't think Rachel ever imagined it would end like this. Maybe she thought she was doing the right thing for Anna, though that logic is twisted beyond recognition. I don't excuse her, not for a second, but part of me almost pities her because she clearly didn't see how badly this would backfire. Sometimes I wonder if we should try talking to her again, because cutting off your mom feels heavy, but if I even hint that to Rick, he gets furious. He can't even look at her right now. I never imagined it would come to this, but here we are. Update 1. Well, so much for reconciliation. That door is officially closed forever. Sorry for the radio silence, but, you know, being a brand new mom means most of my energy has gone into just keeping me and baby May alive and fed. The good news? She's turning 8 weeks old in just a couple days, and we are ridiculously happy. Anna and her husband John are absolute golden retriever humans. They've been helping us non-stop. Emma had to go back to work, but she still calls almost every day. May has become the light of everyone's life. The family group chat is basically 90% May spam now. As for Rachel, we're completely no contact. I convinced Rick not to go through with the whole court thing. It would have been draining and honestly pointless. He wasn't thrilled about dropping it, but agreed since we were already running on low batteries. But last week, Rachel reminded us exactly why she can't be part of our lives. At around 1 a.m., we woke up to loud banging on our front door. I legit thought it was a break-in, so I ran to hide with Mallory while Rick went to check. I heard shouting, but I didn't dare come out, not with the baby in my arms. It was Rachel. According to Rick, she was acting completely unhinged, yelling that she had the right to see May and that we couldn't stop her. Rick had to threaten to call the mean police before she finally left. She actually tried to force her way inside. We immediately told Anna and Emma because if Rachel was spiraling, they needed to know. We were shaken, and turns out we had every reason to be. The next day, Rachel sent us this creepy wall of text. She started with the usual melodrama, accusing us of being cruel and disgusting for not letting her see Mallory, whining that she was being punished when her only crime was being a mother. Then it got weirder. She rambled about how hard it was raising 3 kids and how she'd always balanced their interests, and that's why, according to her twisted logic, she tried to stop Mallory from stealing the spotlight at Anna's wedding. She conveniently ignored the fact that Mallory was still inside me at the time, and also ignored that Anna herself had repeatedly said she didn't care if my pregnancy overlapped with her wedding. But then Rachel dropped the part that made my stomach flip. She admitted she was afraid that with Mallory around, she wouldn't matter as much to her kids anymore. She said that when I announced my pregnancy, she expected Anna to be angry because a normal woman would supposedly feel jealous. But instead, we were all just happy for each other, happy together. And apparently that enraged her. She literally wrote that she wanted us to be envious and competing with one another. When that didn't happen, and when people kept talking about Mallory, she felt humiliated that a baby, who wasn't even born yet, had taken her place as the center of the family. Like, what? Competing with a newborn? That's beyond bananas. At that point, I told Rick to block her. I said his mom wasn't just unstable, she was dangerous. To me, to Mallory, to all of us. My head has been pounding ever since I read those messages. I can't wrap my brain around a woman in her 50s trying to battle it out with a 7-week-old baby for attention. We forwarded everything to Anna and Emma. They were horrified too. They think Rachel might be having some kind of manic episode, and Emma said she'll fly out to get her evaluated at a clinic. Honestly, that's probably the right move. But me? I'm done. I'm not getting dragged into this circus anymore. She can go play villain boss battle on her own. Update 2. We finally got a restraining order against my mother-in-law. She hasn't tried anything since, but we're still staying cautious. Emma took her for a checkup and talked with a psychologist and psychiatrist. Turns out my MIL is fine physically. She was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. Nothing serious, and the doctor said her behavior wasn't caused by a medical condition. They recommended therapy, but it's her personality. She's just hateful and nasty, and Emma decided she won't tolerate it anymore. I totally understand and agree. Maybe I could have felt some sympathy if she had a legitimate mental disorder, but now we know she's just this person, and there's no reconciliation possible. That's why we got the restraining order. For me and Rick, safety comes first. She has already proven twice that being around her is unsafe. On top of that, she has negative feelings toward Mallory, so we have to be extra careful and prevent any contact between them. Honestly, I think this will be my last update. I hope I never have to deal with this situation again. It's been incredibly stressful for our whole family, and I'm just grateful we're all safe now. Well, that's it. Honestly, I kept hoping until the very end that she might have some kind of psychological problem, but as you can see, it turns out it's just her personality. On the other hand, maybe it's not so simple. What counts as a psychological issue and what counts as personality? It's probably a really fine line. If you look at the history of psychology, some things weren't considered a disorder at first and then later they were. So to say definitively that it's just her personality, I don't know if that's entirely fair. At the same time, I get that there are just a lot of genuinely nasty people in the world with terrible beliefs. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do about that, and all you can do is feel for the people caught in their path. Thanks for sticking around and watching this all the way to the end. Check out our previous video here, and best of luck to all of you.